welcome to my 7th movie review, where I'll be looking at the 2009 science fiction film Avatar, directed by James Cameron. This movie was quite a hit when it first came out. I remember people being really polarized about it, with some people loving it and just thinking it was a beautiful, amazing movie, and other people calling it anti-American or environmentalist propaganda, while others still called it almost spiritual. Personally, I liked Avatar. I thought it was a great movie. It's definitely not a bad movie, and I can appreciate the message that it was trying to send, but I would hesitate before calling it spiritual. The movie takes place more than a century in the future, in the year 2154. Earth has no more resources left, so minerals are collected from nearby star systems and brought back to Earth as part of a multi-trillion-dollar space industry. An organization called the Resource Development Administration, or RDA, has an operation set up in the Alpha Centauri star system to mine a resource called unobtainium. You might think that unobtainium is a kind of a dumb name, but James Cameron didn't come up with it. The people behind the Avatar movie didn't come up with unobtainium. Unobtainium is kind of a catch-all science fiction term for any kind of very difficult to acquire but valuable material. Unobtainium is just kind of a general moniker that's used to describe some kind of rare or valuable resource. The thing that makes unobtainium valuable in the Avatar universe is that apparently it's a room temperature superconductor, which makes it an extremely valuable material for energy generation and electrical engineering and computer systems and all that kind of stuff. In the Alpha Centauri system, there's a gas giant with a moon called Pandora, and it's this moon that holds the precious unobtainium. Pandora also has an indigenous sentient species called the Na'vi, which are 10-foot-tall blue humanoids with tails and long neuronal extensions coming out of the back of their head. Furthermore, Pandora has a unique neural architecture connecting all of its life forms into a giant biological network, including the Na'vi. They use their neuronal extensions to tap into this network, which can be accessed at certain species of trees. The protagonist is a paraplegic former Marine named Jake Sully, played by Sam Worthington. He's recruited into the RDA mission after his more academic-minded brother died. His brother was working on an Avatar project led by Dr. Grace Augustine, played by Sigourney Weaver. The Avatar project has human pilots that transmit their consciousness into the artificial but genetically related body of a human-Na'vi hybrid called an avatar. The avatars can breathe the Pandora atmosphere that's toxic to humans, and they look like Na'vi to better communicate and integrate into their cultures. The name Avatar is a reference to Hindu avatars, which are fleshly incarnations of the deities as they descend to the material plane. There are a lot of references and nods to Hinduism in the movie, including the tall, long-armed, blue-skinned physiology of the aliens, which is similar to a lot of religious Hindu art. Anyways, through these avatars, the humans are trying to communicate with and educate the Na'vi, but their efforts on this front have seen limited success. Grace Augustine tried to set up schools for the Na'vi clans near the RDA mining operations, but these schools were closed after an unexplained but tragic and presumably violent event. Jake Sully, in his avatar body, was working as a bodyguard for Grace and the other scientists as they went out in the field to collect samples for research. They get attacked by an alien predator called a Thanator, and Jake is separated. He tries to fend for himself overnight in the alien jungles before a Na'vi huntress named Natiri finds him. She brings him back to her clan home, which is built into a massive tree called Home Tree. They get to know each other, and Jake is eventually adopted into the clan, even going through the alien marriage equivalent to Natiri, who he's fallen in love with. His mission from RDA was to find a way to convince the Na'vi to move from Home Tree, because the primary focus of RDA on Pandora is not working with or educating the natives. It's nothing humanitarian like that. It's purely economical. It's about mining and extraction of the unobtainium. And as luck would have it, the largest deposit of unobtainium exists directly underneath the arboreal home of the Na'vi clan that Jake is working with. But he sympathized with the Na'vi. He sympathized with them and their lifestyle and their values, and he couldn't morally accept his mission. He was caught trying to sabotage RDA land clearing efforts as they destroyed a few of the Tree of Voices, which is a religiously significant species of tree to the Na'vi. And this led to the RDA security chief, Colonel Miles Quaritch, played by Stephen Lang, to push for the forceful evacuation of Home Tree. There's some conflict within RDA headquarters, but they eventually decide to move ahead with the action, and they blow up Home Tree, killing hundreds of Na'vi and shattering Neytiri's clan. Jake begins rallying the surviving Na'vi, as well as Na'vi from the other nearby clans, to do battle against the RDA and to push the humans off of Pandora. Quaritch suspects this, and he plans a preemptive strike on another stand of soul trees to break their morale and cause them to leave RDA operations alone. Jake links up with a soul tree to pray to the alien goddess for help in the battle, and the rest of the movie is pretty much the action-packed climax, the fight scenes, the final confrontations, and all that good stuff. I really liked this movie for a lot of reasons, including its gorgeous and well-thought-out alien flora and fauna, and because of the environmentalist message behind it. The world of Pandora is rich with biodiversity, and compared to other science fiction movies, they really went all out, even giving a lot of their imaginary species fake scientific names. Most of the plants are bioluminescent, filling the night with a soft blue-green purplish glow, like the Obesis rotundus and the Pseudopsychus altissima. There are species of trees that have organic extensions that allow the species on the planet to literally tap into them like a neural network, like the Tree of Souls and the Tree of Voices. The organisms on the planet are all sleek and they appear amphibious or semi-aquatic, with a consistent hexapodal theme. The dire horses that the Na'vi ride on have 6 legs. The mountain banshees have legs and 2 pairs of wings. There are 6-legged deer analogs called hexapede, little 6-handed lemur analogs called prolemurus, and 6-legged predators like the thanator and the viper wolf. All of these animals not just have 6 legs, they have a distinct respiratory and digestive tract, which is an interesting point of difference between their evolution and our evolution. Where earthly evolution has many animals with an esophagus that's used for both swallowing food and breathing air, which kind of exposes us to a risk of choking, Pandora evolution has created animals with a distinct food tract and a separate system for respiration that presents itself as 6 vents or giant nostrils lined up along the animal's neck or their collarbones. These 2 evolutionary themes of the distinct breathing and swallowing mechanisms and the 6 limbs are all really consistent across Pandora's wildlife, which makes the world that much more immersive and realistic. There's just one exception. One big, glaring, kind of stupid exception. The Na'vi. The Pandora natives are very humanoid. They have a few cosmetic differences with humans, but besides that, they're almost more similar to humans in Earth life, like cats, than they are to the Pandora life that they supposedly evolved with. The Na'vi are taller than humans and blue-skinned, with bigger ears, large yellow eyes, a nose like a cat, and 4 fingers instead of 5, but their face looks almost exactly like a human face, with 2 ears on the side of the head, hair on top and the sides and the back, and 2 eyes above a nose, above a mouth, with lips, teeth, a tongue, and a jawbone. Where all of the other life on Pandora has 6 legs or 6 limbs, the Na'vi have 4, like humans. They just have 2 arms and 2 legs. And this is kind of dumb, because giving the Na'vi 4 arms, so they have 6 limbs total, would not only have been in line with the established Pandora biology, keeping it consistent throughout the whole movie, it would also stick with the Hindu avatar deity theme, and it would make the Na'vi look a little more alien and less like humans in makeup. Second, the Na'vi breathe out of their mouths and their nose, which is what humans do, but it's unlike literally every other organism on Pandora. In a biological context, the Na'vi are a weird and heavily anthropomorphized species in a fantastical world of otherwise fantastically alien creatures. It was kind of like they were just dropped on the planet. It doesn't seem as if they would have emerged naturally in these same evolutionary processes that shaped every other species. I liked Avatar's plot, even though it was criticized as being really similar to the movie Dances with Wolves. I mean, I thought it made sense in the universe that James Cameron created, And I can forgive similarities in the plot with other movies if the film has an internal consistency of its own that justifies the plot. With all that said, I would give the plot of Avatar an 85% or an 8.5 out of 10, because while it was good, the ending was resolved with a kind of silly deus ex machina with all the Pandora wildlife attacking the RDA forces. But the rest of the plot was great, especially some of the more complex themes, like the importance of nature and our place in nature, as well as the dehumanization of warfare, as the mechanization and technological sophistication of our weapons and our machines has distanced us, physically, emotionally, and psychologically, from the things that we do through our machines. This critique is particularly relevant because it criticized the drone strikes that were becoming an increasingly popular tool of the US military at the time. I mean, they still are becoming pretty popular, and it's a whole ethical problem on its own, but that's an entirely different discussion. There are other criticisms of the US, like their 2003 invasion of Iraq, like when Quaritch is talking about attacking the Na'vi. He uses the line, "We're going to fight terror with terror," which is a quote from President George Bush talking about the war on terror. As Quaritch speaks, an American flag can be perceived behind him. There's a large TV in the upper left corner, and it's kind of being the blue rectangle, while there's large shades on the window like Venetian blinds, and these are kind of appearing as the 13 stripes. The movie came out shortly after Bush left office, in a time when public opinion was massively against both him and the war. Some people didn't like this political message, but I kind of think that's a morally reprehensible position to take when the war being criticized was both illegal and elective, and it's responsible for the deaths of thousands of innocent civilians. There were other criticisms that were levied against the movie's environmentalist message. But again, that's kind of a bullshit complaint when the environmentalist message is really, really important in today's world. The message of preserving the natural world and appreciating the value and the beauty of nature is important, and people should approach bioconservation as the existentially important task that it is, instead of whining about the politics of it or whining about a science that they don't understand. As for the biology in Avatar, I want to give it a high grade because it was so creative and artistic and consistent, but I'm hesitant because the Na'vi are a pretty glaring anomaly to that consistency. The sleep pods in the beginning of the movie are pretty realistic. It's a realistic approach to space travel, and I've talked about sleep pods and hibernation and induced stasis in my movie reviews on Alien and Aliens. The Pandora colony needing to be airtight and the people needing to use respirators because of some toxin in the atmosphere is also realistic, because it takes into consideration the fact that an alien planet is probably going to be significantly different than ours, and all of the biological gases and fumes and spores and germs in the air could be dangerous to us. And so it's most likely that if we ever make it to another alien planet with an alien jungle on it, we're not going to be able to breathe the air, and we're going to have to wear masks like they do in this movie. The biggest thing that I'm having trouble with is the soul tree and the planetary neural net. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible, I just don't understand the mechanics of it all. It seems like having some neural extensions coming out of your body would be dangerous, because they'd be really sensitive, you could hurt them really easily, they're delicate, and they're prone to infection, because that's like exposed neural tissue. Your brain has a lot of protection, because if your brain gets diseased, you're screwed. Brain diseases are really dangerous, and so it seems a little silly, a little not quite evolutionarily advantageous to have your neural tissue protruding out of your head like this. It seems like it would be really easy to transmit diseases when you have not only just your neural tissue exposed, but when you also have something like a soul tree, which is a plant just existing out in nature that all sorts of people can come and just hook their neural tissue onto. It seems like that the soul tree might be a really good spot for some kind of brain pathogen to spread from. Perhaps there is some kind of Pandoran brain pathogen that spreads through the soul tree, but I'm not sure how that would work. It's not talked about in the movie. I'm also not sure how memories, or even an individual's entire consciousness, could be stored or transmitted through a soul tree. There just doesn't seem to be the necessary density and complexity of neural fibers. But then again, I'm really not sure how these things work in the human brain either. So while I'm inclined to think that this is impossible science fiction nonsense, I can't say for certain. This is one of those examples of alien biology where it's really hard to say how possible it is, because it's not totally absurd, like industrial acid for blood, but it also kind of strains credulity when you look at our current understanding of the brain and consciousness and memories. So I guess, after everything is considered, I'd have to give Avatar a biology rating of 8.5 out of 10, or 85%, the same as my rating for the plot. And this is because they did put a lot of effort and a lot of thought into the biology, and I appreciate that, and I think it's really cool that they did that. But it's not perfect, and the Na'vi kind of, being central to the story are kind of a silly anomaly in all of this otherwise very well thought out biological landscape. If you haven't seen Avatar yet, even though it's almost 10 years old and was something close to a cultural event when it first came out, if you haven't seen it, then I recommend you go see it as soon as you can. It's long, but it's a good movie, and it's going to provoke your imagination and immerse you in one of the most visually spectacular settings ever put onto film.